Hey there, and welcome back to Garrick Gillette Photography, where we explore photography and videography through a Midwest lens. In today's video, we're diving into a crucial aspect of landscape photography, and that is getting the sky right, especially when you're shooting landscapes in a high dynamic range of light. A bright sunny day and you got your subject in the shadows, things like that. When you've got a high dynamic range of light, you want to get the sky right. Exposing for the sky in these situations will take your landscape photography to a new level. You'll be capturing the sky and making landscape images like you've never done before. So if you're just a beginner trying to master the basics of photography, or if you're a seasoned pro and just looking to refine some techniques, I hope this video brings you some value, and if it does, do me a favor, hit the thumbs up, hit the like button, and if you've not done so already, hit the old subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Alright, so if you're ready to take your landscape photography to the next level, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, hit the like button, and let's get started. It was a Tuesday afternoon and the forecast was for showers and thunderstorms, and I knew I wanted to get out and take advantage of the stormy clouds that were going to be moving in, and I knew that there was these two trees that were smack dab right in the middle of this bean field that I've been wanting to shoot and just haven't had time to get over there. So this was the day that I was going to make the time, get over there and see what we could do with it. Walking up to this scene, I immediately took notice of how the two trees, which will be the subject of this image, are much darker than the sky in the background and the bean field in the foreground. So if I were to expose for the subject in this case, it is very likely that the foreground and the background are going to get blown out, meaning the image is so overexposed in the highlight areas that you've lost all that detail. When shooting in RAW, you can pull back some of the detail in post-processing, but not all of it, so it's best to expose for the highlights of the image and get that part of the exposure correct in camera. I find that I'm able to recover lost details in the shadow areas much better than I can than the highlights. A very simple solution to solving this problem of having a high dynamic range of light is to shoot on a tripod and meter for your subject, make an exposure, meter for the sky, make an exposure, meter for your foreground, make an exposure. Then you can very easily blend them in Lightroom or Photoshop or whatever post-processing program you're using. But not everybody has a tripod, or not everybody has a tripod with them at the time. So if and when you find yourself in that circumstance, I highly recommend exposing for the sky and pulling out the details of the shadows. Alright, so now we're jumping over into Lightroom and gonna go to the develop panel. Got two images here we're gonna process really quickly. First gonna do the white balance. I'm gonna do this very simply. I started with daylight, but then I just went to auto as the difference was negligible. I bring it down the exposure a little bit. I'm going to get rid of that nasty duster sensor spot of dust. Get rid of that. I'm going to close down the highlights, open up the shadows a little bit, bring that back down, try to get it right about there. I think it's good. Now I'm going to hold option and I'm going to slide the white slider to the right until I see the light go away. Do the same thing with the black. You can take the black just a little bit further, and I'm just going to do a couple other things. Like I said, I'm just doing a very quick process of these two images. Gonna do the lens corrections. I think I had my 2470 2470 Sigma lens on at this time, And gonna add a little bit of vignette. Usually go at about 10, 12, usually right around there is standard for me. So yep, -9 it looks like on vignette. I was going to add a linear gradient to the sky to still pull out some of that detail and some of that anger that's in the sky. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, we're going to pull that down. I'm going to drop the exposure just a little bit. I could have added a little contrast. I could have played with dehaze. Bring the highlights down within the cloud. Again, all trying to bring that detail back in. You saw how overexposed the cloud was on the original exposure. Just looking to close that out now. And that's really going to do it for image number 1. So now we'll open up the second image. So the first one was shot at 1/100th of a second, f11, ISO 100. The second one was 1/200th of a second, f11, ISO 100. Same lens, same camera, everything else. So I'm going to process it the exact same way as I did the first one. And then we'll take a look at both images. Alright, so here's the first shot. I exposed for the trees, so I was at 1/100th of a second at f11, ISO 100. And you can clearly see how the trees are metered pretty well and the sky is really blown out and the bean field is really overexposed as well. Now here's that image processed, and this is how good the D850 is. It's 45 megapixel camera or sensor, and look how well it pulled back those highlights that were clipped on the first image. This to this. This to that. That is crazy how good that is. Here's the second shot, shot at 200th of a second, and already we got more detail in the cloud, so we're ahead of the game right out of the gate, which is a good place to be. But let's see how much better we can make it with a little bit of processing. So look at the detail that we're getting now in these clouds. It's just amazing. I mean, the first picture was great, but the detail is so much better with just a slight change of shutter speed and exposing for the sky. And that also helps settle things down in the foreground, in the bean field. It was, awfully bright and shiny before. Now that's all settled down and doesn't take away from the subject. So here's the final image. It's not going to win any photo contest, but it was a great day to get out, and this is a perfect illustration of why it's important to expose for the sky. And granted, these cameras today will bail us out when we get into a jam, but it's always good to know the basics. Alright everybody, hey, that's going to do it for another video. Thank you so much for stopping by. I am Garrick, and I am your very best friend in the whole wide world, so if you've not done so already, hit that subscribe, drop me a comment, drop me a like, do all the good stuff, and we'll see you next week everybody. Thank you so much. Bye bye.